Hello and welcome to Out in the Wash. My name's Jane and this is a brand new podcast bringing you the week's roundup from the British soaps including Eastenders, Emmerdale and Coronation Street. I'll be bringing you a roundup of everything that's happened on a weekly basis in our favourite British soaps. Now I know there are already some great content creators out there and I don't wish to take anything away from them, and I've set myself the huge task of covering both Emmerdale, Coronation Street and Eastenders. I've watched these soaps for years, I've grown up with these characters and I've had this in my heart for so long that I just want to share with the world, do something creative, make a podcast. Everyone else has, why not me? Now mainly it'll be me talking, but I hope to bring some guests in, some other people to talk with, but for now you'll have to put up with me. Now I'd say this week in EastEnders, so that's from which date particularly? I've lost track. I'm still in a Betwixtmas setting, so if we look, we're going to be looking at everything from the 5th. I should have remembered CORRIEDALE started on the 5th. I should have remembered. We will come to that, but I feel it's so big that I just want to talk about EastEnders first. So if you are just a Corrie or an Emmerdale fan, skip forward, I don't mind, or come join us in Albert Square. Come join us. Now, it's not been quiet, but of course we've had everything over Christmas and New Year. So really when I think about EastEnders this week, I think the biggest thing that's kicked off has been Harry's revenge on Ravi. And I can't blame him for this, but then I don't know, what would the rehab centre have really taught him? Did they speak about revenge? They obviously spoke about not having any romantic relationships post-rehab, but I wonder if they addressed any revenge feelings at all, because he's hell-bent on Ravi experiencing some of the hurt that he's had, everything that happened to Kojo, nearly losing his best mate, his dad going to prison. So I get that. And then he drags Nicola in, pregnant Nicola, and she just goes full hellbent leather, drugs him, leaves him to they drop him in the pit of the Arches, and it's Nugget that finds him, and Nugget can't understand or doesn't understand what's going on, and he ends up being attacked by Ravi because Ravi thinks the Nugget is Nish, who he's seen in a hallucination. Nice to see Nish this week. Not as a ghost, but more, I suppose a ghost, but more a hallucination, an image, something a bit more believable than someone seeing the ghost on, let's say, Angie Watts at last year's 40th anniversary. So so Nugget ends up getting attacked, ends up in hospital, and everybody's stopped looking for Ravi at this moment. Now, the thing that got me here was Vinny thinking that Nugget was Ravi. Now, there's a huge size difference there. Huge. So that it seemed a little bit unbelievable. So we'd have to see what happens to Ravi. We know he's going to have a huge mental illness storyline going down that path. I suppose the second one this week to hit was, I should have done this first, was Jean. Jean channeling her inner Miss Marple, her inner Vera. Get that woman on line of duty, because I know it's been thrown out there that it could have been Jasmine that killed Anthony, but if it comes to it that it was, she's hiding it very, very well. I don't even know at this point if it was even Chrissy, and sending Kat out to Corfu to look for her, what is she going to achieve? So Zoe's in prison, Kat's out in Corfu, Alfie's having to hold down the fort, looking after the boys, the cat, Jasmine, and Jean. And Jean, to say she was so up last week, is still up, but she's hell-bent on finding out who killed Anthony. She's got the incident board. She's asking questions. She's convinced that it's Jasmine, and then towards the end of the week, it goes down the route of Jasmine is evil, and she's looking at videos quite similarly to what Joel was looking at about the manosphere. She starts to look at videos of evangelical Christian preachers, and their feeling towards people are evil. So we go down there, and it results in Jean holding a stall, defending herself from what she perceives Jasmine to be as evil. Oscar manages to come in and save her, and then Jean decides she's off to Lynn's. I feel sorry for Lynn. Lynn's got to put up with Jean in this state. Now, we don't see Lynn that often, but she's supposedly just had Stacey and her kids a few months ago, and now she's got Jean, who isn't really even a blood relative. She's just the wife of someone related to her father that is now coming round in a high state of behaviour. But please, don't get me wrong, Gillian, you have played an absolute blinder this week. I was worried about this storyline, but now I've seen a few videos made about this, and they feel it's a true representation of how these things escalate and the speech around them. So, and thankfully, Gillian has kept this storyline feeling so real. And it's just, again, a huge shout out to her. She has won awards, but I don't feel that Gillian ever gets the full recognition of what she deserves, because she does such a great job with Jean. Jean's arc over the years has been incredible. You go back and watch those first episodes that Jean comes in. It's a different Jean, but it's completely believable that this character has changed over that time. Others, not so much. I'm not going to say who. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head, but, a good arc for Jean, and I hope if Gillian's going to be off our screens for a bit, have a great rest, Gillian. I think you went travelling recently, so yeah, I hope you had a great time, and I hope we see you back soon. That house is feeling empty, because surely now if Jean's gone away, all it's going to be is Charlie and Lily. If they move back from the Vic, now it'd be easier if they were at the Vic, but then Eve's just across the road. Yeah, that house is going to be... We go from that house being absolutely full to the rafters, packed full of people, to barely anyone in there. So yeah, so what's the other story? So we've had a bit of Max this week, trying to make amends. Obviously, we had the fast forward last week, and this week we don't need to see him much. That will all start picking up as the year goes on. I have theories about this. There's people I'd love to see be that bride and be that pregnant lady, but who knows? We've just got to keep monitoring it and watching it. I'm trying to think now of other characters that we've had. So we've done Jean, we've done Ravi. We know that the adoption's going ahead there with Eve. Well, there's more meetings about Eve and Suki's adoption. Of course, I've forgotten. Phil wants to take Nigel to the beach. They do one jigsaw puzzle together, and Phil decides that Nigel needs to go to Portugal. Now, there are nice beaches closer than Portugal. Now, Portugal's not that far, I know, but surely there are nicer beaches. But Phil and Portugal have this affinity, and I get it. Who doesn't want to see Phil on the beaches of Faro? It's beautiful. The nice deserted islands of Faro. Go there, take him there. It'll be quiet. But has Phil really thought about how he's going to get Nigel on a plane? And he's going to be asking questions if he remembers Julie, and then if he starts kicking off. Yeah, so I thought that home, the only problem I had about the home that Julie and Phil took Nigel to see was the lights were quite dark in the evenings. Now, anybody can contact me about how a home like this is after dark, but the lights felt quite dim, and I would have thought it would be better, especially seeing and that, to keep the lights brighter, because I've heard a lot about sundowning, and I just wondered if that was true to the script. It felt a little strange. I felt like Nigel's behaviour, it was just left. He was just kind of left in the corridor for Phil and Julie to deal with. You would think that the nurses there will be like, look, this is what we do in this situation, just to give them peace of mind, really. But I don't think Phil, I think Sam is right on this. I don't think he's thought this through, that he's never going to bring Nigel back, or is it just a trip for a couple of weeks to the beach just to get him what he wants? What if he changes his mind and forgets completely that he even wanted to go to the beach? I haven't really thought about that, have you, Phil? You've just gone with your heart, and I understand that you've gone with your heart and you just want to take him somewhere nice. I get that. But yes, so Julie and Phil looking for care homes for Nigel, and it's all gone a bit funny again but he needs care. I don't know why someone can't come in either. Surely it would be better, can you get someone to come in and introduce themselves and make that transition a little bit more seamless from just being at home to now being in a strange care home? If you see people coming in every day, does it make them more familiar? Something to think about there. Who else? Let's move around the square. So we've got Patrick. No, Patrick's still in a state of mourning. And we've seen him in, he's hiding away in Harry's bar, and Chelsea, she says, I didn't see you, but it's good that he's there. She can keep an eye on him. And maybe he just feels because Anthony died in the pub that the pub's not somewhere he wants to be. So yes, we see him there drinking with Ravi, and they're talking about, Patrick's got a dead son. Ravi's got 2 dead dads, really. And he killed nearly 2 of them. We can put Nish's death on him, but Nish had it coming. We knew that was never going to have the greatest outcome. And I think Ravi's always probably suppressed the guilt that he's felt for Ranveer's death, and the way that Kirat got the blame for it, and he tried to blame Suki, and really Suki probably still thinks that it's her. Oh, she did see the clip, didn't she? She saw the footage on Denise's computer. So really, Ravi's never had to be held accountable for that death through the courts, through his own family. But I think that guilt's always been there, and with this storyline with Harry, I think we will see that come more, that he wanted a dad. Ranveer was not the greatest dad. Nish was gone. He found Nish far too late, and everything that Nish was. So we've come back to Ravi again through Patrick. But the family are trying to do, Patrick's still holding that guilt that he'd told Anthony that he wished he died when pulled, which was strange. I'm sorry, that was strange. Like, even though they completely changed the personality of Anthony, I don't believe he would have said that, but it had to happen for the plot. I get that had to be the last words that Patrick said to Anthony. So that's where we are with that. We've seen a bit of the Beals this week, but not loads. They've been about. I really should make better notes, shouldn't I? So EastEnders, a very calm, collected week. But I suppose they knew that the other two were having this massive week of CORRIEDALE. So just put something out that's real, that's keeping things going. And we know that EastEnders is going to pick up after a few months towards the end of next year, of course. Oh, I also forgot to add in that we saw Linda and Honey go to Linda's school reunion and meet this character called B. Pollard. Honey tries to be, she realises that she's not going to get in unless she's got a name, which just seems silly. I mean, who would not let someone through, go, oh, you've brought someone with you for moral support? It's a school reunion. It's not a government meeting, is it? It's just a school reunion. So I don't know why that bit came into fruition. I said, look, I've brought my friend. She went in for a bit. You don't seem to have her name. Like, can she come in? I don't know why this was such a problem, but it led us to the name that Honey picked up turned out to be B. Pollard. She was there in the flesh and said, you've got my name. And then she drops the truth that Linda was a bit of a bully at school. Now, it's not fully unbelievable. We all went to school. There were some people changed, that they were like that at school, that they were really protecting themselves when they were picking on someone, how they felt about themselves. And it's an odd thing to do for Linda, but you know what? It's a new storyline. It's a new era for Linda, really. I like this friendship that she's got with Honey, and then Honey's got that friendship with Nicola. So it's joining up those people across the square. Always good, because it keeps those characters focused and centered and stops them drifting off, like we saw, I'd say, with Karen's family, with the Taylor family, that Bernie became more and more isolated. Family had left. She's not making those connections with other characters as much as others do. So it's a good thing to see that the friendship is there with Linda and Honey now. So we bump into B. Turns out that Honey and B have the same bag. They swap that and they go find B. B ends up being kicked out as they get there. How convenient. And then Honey says, well, you come stay at Linda's B&B. She's got B&B. You should come there. Now, we're led to believe, where is this? It isn't Watford. I've forgotten now where they said. Canning Town? Might have been Canning Town. So it's not too far. But one thing that did get me, nice little nod there, B said to Linda, to Elaine, sorry, that B said to Elaine that you've not changed a bit since school. And I thought, well, she has, because she's completely changed actress. She was blonde. She was blonde before. She was Maria Friedman. So, a little bit of an inside joke there. You've not changed a bit. Awkward. Yes, she has. Yes, she has. So hopefully we'll see more of B. Find out her backstory. Find out who's she going to connect with in the square. So otherwise, I don't think they'd have brought her back to the B&B. And then it connected to Ollie's been lashing out at school. Now, I'm not surprised. When was the last time we even saw Ollie, discussed him? It's all been Annie. Annie's got a dad. Annie's got a new dad. Why do you think Ollie's lashing out? Ollie's lost his dad. You're never there. Ollie's locked in a cupboard somewhere. Why do you not think that Ollie's lashing out? I'm not surprised. So, yeah, so Linda's bit. Is that everything covered? I think so. I do want to talk more about Jasmine. Jasmine, Oscar coming back together. That's been really nice. Jasmine. I don't think she killed Anthony. I really don't. And I'm really enjoying her dynamic within the Slaters. Because again, the Slaters losing Stacey. There's a lot of Jasmine. I see a young Stacey there. I think she's got great potential, great storylines. She's doing a fabulous job. I love her. I hope they do more with her. I hope she doesn't just lose herself within this storyline's now done. We're going to see nothing more. I think she could be a great addition to that Vic. Yeah. So loving Jasmine. Don't think she killed Anthony. She's technically lost both her parents. One's in prison. I don't know why Zoe just telling her not to bring her name into it and Jasmine's gone, okay then, that's fine. Yep. We'll just get along with that. I don't know if there's more to that than actually meets the eye. So yeah, I think that's rounded up EastEnders for the week. Again, we're on social, so if you have anything to add to that or you want to say something, please get in touch. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on Facebook. So yeah, I will also provide the email address at the end of the show. Right, so we'll move on to this week's big news. CORRIEDALE. This has come around so quick. It feels like, yes, they've been going on about it for absolutely ages, but I do feel that it's come round really fast. Suddenly, it's the 5th of Jan, it's here, it's Monday. So technically on Monday, we had 2 full hours of soap. Is that right? Yes, 2 full hours of soap. So from 7 till 7:30, we had the Emmerdale build up to things. Then we had the Coronation Street build up to things. And then at 9 o'clock, bam, 2 of my favourite soaps joining together. And it was cinematic beauty. I was skeptical. I was so skeptical of this. I wanted it to work so much. And I would truly believe that it could be put together. But there was so much that could go wrong. It had to, and I believe they got the right team behind it. They chose the right people for the storylines. And it was so good. More of it, please. More of it, please. Make it make sense. Someone in comments I see this week has suggested that this is what's the word? A test. It's a test to see whether or not they could cut the cost. But you can't. I'm sorry. Emmerdale and Corrie are the lifeblood of our evenings. Now, I have things to say on the new scheduling because you've absolutely, and not just on ITV, but ITV1, but on ITV3 as well. You have mucked up my schedule, ITV. But I might come back to that at the end and we'll talk about it. But yes, so Emmerdale kicks off. I made a video about this already. We see Kim going to buy some flowers from Pollard. Lovely. Those 2 characters don't interact enough for my liking, right? They are probably the 2 longest. And we know Pollard is because we had that later and there's a behind the scenes thing. But Kim, on and off, she's been there ages. All right, she disappeared for a while, but she's that stalwart of Emmerdale. And I love this character. I love this character so much because if you go back and I could do a separate episode on Kim Tate. I really could. But one thing that I will always say is if you go back to the plane crash, which did get a nice little nod in CORRIEDALE, love that for that. If you go back, that night of disaster, you would not recognise the Kim that you see sometimes today. I'm not saying all the time. She is a human being, and this is why I feel she's the most realist character out there. She can be so savage. But if you look at that plane crash night and the way she saves her horses, she saves the Windsor kids. I mean, that we see what that led to. If she hadn't saved the Windsor kids, we wouldn't have April now and all this. So just putting that out there that those things are linked. April's linked to the plane crash technically. Yeah. So, and she looks after the wounded, and she is the nicest Kim ever. It's beautiful, and it really rounds that character off. That in the heat of disaster, she turns into a full Florence Nightingale. Go back, find those clips online. It is, and look at her, and look what happens, because that comes out. We've seen that recently with Lydia. She just needs friends. And she is so similar to Joe in this respect that they go, oh no, I've got no friends. And you think, no, is it any wonder the type of behaviours you're displaying? And the displaying of Joe's behaviour this week is something else that I want to come on to, because they're practically your cousins and you're doing this to them, right? Seem to forget that. And it did get a nod back the other week from Sam, but yes. So Kim's going to buy some roses from Pollard, and they're white, obviously for Yorkshire, and there's some red ones there for Lancashire. Have I got that the right way around? She chooses the white ones anyway, I assume, for Yorkshire. Yes, it's on the Leeds United badge. Come on, Jade. So yeah, and she said, I've always preferred these anyway. Someone else has said in comments that she put them on a particular grave recently. Nice little nod. So yeah, and then she stumbles away. And when she stumbles away, she goes, oh, gobbles. But hold on, she is holding a stick there. We don't see that stick again for the rest of the week, just to point that out. It's gone. It's out of the way. So yeah, so nice little nod. Those little things. Eric's putting out an A board with a Yorkshire versus Lancashire cricket match in this weather. Are we really? No snow there this week, I noticed. No snow. So yeah, it's freezing. Who's playing cricket in the freezing cold? Please correct me if I'm wrong. So yeah, nice little nods. And then suddenly everyone's in cars. Now, it's very rare in Emmerdale that people are in cars, but for this particular episode, Kane and Moira, they're taking Jacob and Sarah to the airport, and then Mac rolls up because Vanessa's dropped an absolute grenade into that relationship, but Vanessa thinks she's right when she's not right, because she's telling that Charity's baby is actually Mac's, but we know it's not. We know it's Ross's. Yeah. So Mac rolls up, come on, Charity, we're going for a drive. Okay. Even I was surprised. I was like, really? Who's driving in this? But people have to drive. We already know that Jay's on a job. He said he got to go to Manchester. He said that earlier at the end of last week. But at this point, then we see a body being dragged in tarp, and then we see a face, and it is Ray. So we know that Ray is dead. But what we don't know is who's killed Ray. His fingers start to point. That's nice. Nice new one. And we see Vanessa. She's on the phone to someone. Is it done? Now, at this point, I thought Dylan. But I've seen there's no way, actually, that it could be Dylan. Because she's like, ring me back. But she's been discussing this. Dylan knows everything that's going on. So I don't think it is Dylan. Is it the person that we see later? With everything going on, there's no way she could keep that secret true. But it could be. Then I thought, is it Paddy? No. So we're narrowing it down. It's not Marlon, but Marlon's still in that frame that he could have killed Ray, but I don't think he has. Laurel's looking a bit bereft this week. Is that because she's just found out her boyfriend is a drug type? No. I don't think it's that she just found out that her boyfriend is a full-time drug dealer and people trafficker. There's something else there. She's getting very close to Jay, but then Jay hasn't spoke to her in weeks. He's been, faffing off with Kerry and getting all mad about her and Pollard. So suddenly Jay's being very supportive to Laurel. So is there something there? Because we know that body, Ray's body, then ends up in Jay's van later on. But does Jay know it's there? And then we think he's going to find it at the end of the week, but he doesn't. So Ray's body in that van. Bear, we believe, is dead. Sorry for that, but yes, we believe that Bear is dead. Okay. 2 notes. Would be nice if he wasn't. Feel like that's ended that storyline a bit. And can we also make an apology to Eve? When Paddy said later in the week that, I'm just going to go talk to Eve, I thought, yes, can you go and apologise? Because none of you has believed that she saw her granddad in that field. And it would have solved this weeks ago. But now you're like, you didn't see anything, Eve. No, you must have been seeing. What? Why would she lie? Why would she lie? So yeah, so I think they need to apologise to Eve. I'd like that to be done, please. Where were we? So yes, everyone's driving. Robert escapes from the house and he gets Joe to drive him. He says, you can have anything you want. I feel that was stupid. Surely there would have been other people around to drive. Everyone's driving, just like it had to be Joe. And I'll come back to this again. We see that... No. Should I do it now? No. But please remember that Joe's mother married into the Sugden family. Well, her mother, I believe, married into the Sugden family. So when we see Joe's nasty side, it's very much the Chris side of him. His father, Chris Tays, stepson of Kim. But we have to remember that his mother was Rachel, killed tragically by a domestic abusing boyfriend, Was he a Graham as well? I think he might have been a Graham. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, she was pushed off a cliff. So yeah, so he's part Sugden. That niceness that Rachel had, and I just think he forgets this sometimes. So yeah, and I will keep coming back to that because it was mentioned by Sam the other week, but we're going to keep coming back. So anyway, so he gets Joe to start driving him towards Aaron and John because John has kidnapped Aaron, but Aaron has him at gunpoint. So yeah, there's that. There's no more talk of a bomb under a car. That just got taken out. I know it didn't work, but sure, is it still sat there? Is there still evidence that it's sat there? And they all start driving towards what we assume is like the Yorkshire Moors. And our episode is left there. I feel like I've left something out. I must make better notes for the next episode. I'm trying to do this off the top of my head. So yeah, so that's our half hour. Then we get to Corrie. Okay, so the Corrie side of things. And we've had Debbie and Ronnie's wedding. Billy's loading up the minibus because Todd decides, after he's told all of this to Billy, that Todd wants to decide he wants to get going. So the minibus is filled up. The last person to get on, unfortunately, is Theo. And we know where this ends. Billy doesn't want Theo to get on that bus, but he kind of has to save face. And he starts making comments, get off him. Just those little side notes as they're driving along. So that's everyone on the bus. And on the bus, we've got Billy driving, we've got Theo, we've got Todd, we've got Asher, Steve, Cassie, Tracy, Shona and David. Is Summer on the bus? I have to check. Maybe Summer was on the bus too. There was two. Who was sat with Asher? Someone was sat with Asher who I thought, why are you sat with Asher when Steve and Cassie could sit together? But I think they had to be in front of Tracy, really, from that point of view. James was sat next to Asher. I remember now. James escaped completely unscathed. No trauma, no nothing. I feel like he could have saved Billy more than Todd. Not more than Theo. Why didn't James try? Do better, James. So yeah. And we've got everything's kicked off at the wedding. Kevin's tried to show Carl for what he is, for driving into Tyrone and running him over. So we've got that. So then Kevin, Abby, and Daniel and Michael all see Carl drive off. Now at the moment, the only two witnesses are Kevin and Abby. I don't know what's happened to Daniel and Michael because they definitely saw Carl driving. Carl's drunk. Debbie says, you can't drive. So he just like, yeah, watch me, sis. So she gets in the car and starts driving towards the moors at full speed. So we've got the bus, the car. We also have, who else do we have driving? I feel like I've missed someone. Oh, yes, sorry, Swallow fans. At this point, so Monday we see the release of Carla. Kit finally tracks her down to a shipping container in Weatherfield somewhere, finds her, releases her. They need to get to Becky and Lisa with Betsy in the back. And it reminds me very much of Richard Hillman and the Platt family, but Becky's not planning on driving into the canal. She's planning on driving them to the airport so they can escape to Spain. I mean, like someone pointed out this week, fair play to you, Lisa didn't even hand in a notice. Like, what was the plan? Now, I saw Lisa put those cuffs under her jacket, and I feel like Lisa knew more than she was letting on. It's not come to light, but she just had this look all week. She's like, something's not right here. So yeah, so we've got them. So there again, everybody's driving. Everyone's driving, and between John crashing, I think John crashes into Becky and Lisa, which just leads to the bus crashing, which leads to Kane and Moira flying off the road. They've got Mac and Charity behind them. And then, who have I missed? Who else did I say was in that? I think that's it. Oh, and Carl and Debbie. And Carl pulls Debbie across to the driver's seat because I think he thinks she's dead. And he pulls her to the driver's seat and makes it look like she was driving. And further down the line, completely blames her. And Debbie, for some reason, I suppose because of her dementia, she goes along with it. Even though when Kevin questions her, saying, well, you'll have bruises. And where was Kevin Webster in EastEnders, by the way, when we had this with Janine and Linda? Because no one checked the bruises then. Said your seatbelt will have bruised you. You will have the bruises on the passenger side because he dragged you across. So yeah. And then she's like, no, the airbag did its job. I didn't have any bruises. And towards the end of an episode later in the week, we see that the bruises are as she would have been in the passenger side. So I just don't know what's going on with Debbie at the minute. I think it's all starting to come out in the wash, guys. This is why I leave the podcast at. It will all come out in the wash. It will. It always does. So yeah. Kitten and Carla are trying to chase down Becky and Lisa. We think at one point Lisa might have carked it, but she doesn't. She comes round, and as Lisa's being put into an ambulance, I can't work out why Becky wouldn't want to stay with her, but Becky looked awful running away. She's like, well, if you're going to run away, come and say goodbye at least first. And she slaps the cuffs on her. This isn't in the CORRIEDALE episode, is it? This is the aftermath. But yes, or was it at the end? I think it was at the end. So nice little touch there. I'll try and talk to it as the CORRIEDALE episode. So yeah, so the van, the minibus from Coronation Street has completely fallen on its side. It's on fire. It's blowing up. Everyone but Billy gets out. Now, when the episode started, Billy was awake, and then suddenly he's not. And at that point, I thought, has Theo done something to him? But I don't really know. We just know that Billy then passes out again, and he's trapped by his seatbelt. And Theo's like, "Oh, go and save him," and he doesn't. And in a tussle, Billy undoes his own seatbelt, and then Theo does it back up again. So Billy is stuck. The bus blows up. Gone. R.I.P. Billy. Now, I'm really sad to see Billy go. I think it's been so soon after the loss of Paul that, very sad to see Daniel go. Hope he'll do great things. Would love to see him come back to Emmerdale. Would love to see him do more. I know he's doing Young Frankenstein at the moment. Lovely stuff. So bye-bye Billy. And Theo left him to die, essentially. It's kind of murder. We'll have to see if that ever plays out. I don't think he'll be able to keep it quiet for long. I think he'll crack quite easily. So yeah. And then Shona and David, they're at the bus. Asher's out the bus. Asher's gone into full paramedic mode. Love to see it. Hope that Asher can come back and be a paramedic. We've got a lovely crossover between her and Kane Dingle, which Tanisha, I can't imagine what that was like. Just amazing stuff. So yeah, so she's helping out. She's trying to get everyone sorted, and so she's on the Corrie side of things. You've got Jacob from Emmerdale doing his best to sort everything out. So yeah, so two sort of trained medical persons on the scene. The ambulances do rock up, not too slow. Love that, because it can take forever sometimes. You know, they knew where they were going. You've got Kit doing his 3 words, and Kit finds out from Aaron that John Sugden, whom we've seen his poster up in Wethy police station, is on the loose. So he takes that and he goes after him in the woods. John is holding Aaron and Robert at gunpoint. They tussle. A gunshot is heard, and we see just before the last break that Kane has been shot. And yeah, I thought he was gone at that point. I thought he was gone. We later find out that through this gunshot wound and being scanned in hospital, that Kane has some sort of mass, could be cancerous. So there's a lot. I hope this isn't the end of Jeff. I feel it's really mean that this family have been through so much through losing Kane and Chaz's mother to cancer, Chaz's cancer, Moira's tumour on her brain, and now Kane having possible cancer. Like, this is where I get that people go, this would never happen in families, but I think it does. And we had all the talk about the BRCA gene. Kane knew this was a possibility, but it's so soon after everybody else is that, yeah, it does feel a little bit mean. So yeah, so they're all in the woods. Kane, even after he's been shot, is like, I'm not letting that lanky copper get hold of him. He wants justice for Nate, and he wants to catch him, but we then see that Robert manages to get him to an ambulance. At the end of the episode, we see that John Sugden is dead. But who has killed him? And, okay, in another van is a girl tied up. We don't know who this girl is. we see a hooded figure. Now, for a minute there, I thought, we're having an EastEnders crossover as well, and the hooded person is the person holding Lauren and Oscar in EastEnders. But no, that person turns up at the hospital in their hooded figure, and we hear, I'm terminating the contract because he's seen Joe Tate. And who is that person? That person is Graham. Graham Foster. Not the Graham Foster from EastEnders, who's Freddie's real dad. Graham Foster from Emmerdale, who we've thought since 2020 was dead. He was found by Billy and Priya at not the bottom of a cliff, but he was, as far as we know, he was killed by Piers. And, yeah. So it'd be interesting to see how he's back. Of all the people to bring back, I know there've been inklings that something's not right, but yeah, he sees Joe. And I think he believes that Joe is dead because he was sent out, Kim, Wicked Witch, go kill Joe, get rid of him. So yeah, and then Joe kind of spots him, but there's no one really that Joe can tell to say, by the way, I think I saw Graham and he's not dead. So I don't know who you cremated, but it wasn't him. Yeah. But Graham's obviously involved in some dodgy business because he's got this girl in the back of the van. That girl turns out to be, as we find out at the end of the week, and I think we'd all guessed it because they have matching tattoos, Shona has a sister. Jodie? I want to say Jodie. Anyway, and this sister turns up, manages to move hospitals from Hotton to Weatherfield. I've never really heard that. We don't really know what's wrong with her. I thought she would have been she was definitely being treated at Weatherfield. I thought she'd just been discharged and then just came in, but yeah, she's definitely been treated. Maybe she hadn't. Maybe she just came in as a random person. Steals a toy from another patient and puts it on Shona and David because baby's neonatal unit. Because yeah, Shona goes into labour during the crash. The baby is born at Weatherfield. They blue light her from Hotton to Weatherfield. She's hoping for Mr. Lee. She doesn't get Mr. Lee. She gets Mr. Harper, a random character that came in on, I want to say Wednesday or Thursday. And of all the places he went to was Roy's Rolls. And he sees Billy's picture on the front of a newspaper and says, not many of them gave Vickers about. So he obviously knows Billy somehow. And it happens to be when he's talking to Bernie, Billy's ex-mother-in-law. So yeah, that's a bit weird. He ends up at the hospital. He has an argument with David over a parking space. And it turns out that he is the man who's going to be delivering Shona's baby because she needs the extra help because of the mass on her neck. All goes well. And they name the baby Harper after Mr. Harper, the doctor, who goes back to Bristol, and we'll see where that goes. I just think if he wasn't meant to be something, they wouldn't have done so much with him. So yeah, I'm going to guess he's going to come back at some point. I wonder whether he's to do with Summer's first dad, something like that. Maybe she'll have more of a connection to him, and it'll give Summer some more grounding in who she is and where she's come from. But then the rest of the week, Summer is fully leaning on Todd, because out of her 3 dads, he's the only one left, which is absolute madness. The only one left is Todd. And of course, Todd's got a lot going on right now. He's dealing with the grief for Billy. This is his job. And you see hints of that when they're talking about Billy's funeral, that he's like, yeah, Allsops can do the headstones. And I just thought a lovely touch. Yeah, we're still remembering that Todd is an undertaker, and Of course, Billy had the service ready to go. I mean, every person that steps onto that cobble should have their funeral service ready to go. Just get it done. Just go tell George what you want, even if it's 50 years or 5 years or 5 months. Tell them. A lot easier. But yeah, that's quite morbid. So back to Corriedale. Anyway, so we've done Becky and Carla. Becky's locked up. Shona and David are in the ambulance. Mac from Emmerdale ends up with some sort of metal pole impaled on him, and we think he's gonna be a goner, but Jacob manages to keep him stable and get him to hospital, so he's there. Now, yeah, at one point, I think Cassie and Steve, they start to get in an ambulance, and Steve says, and Cassie's like, what? And he's like, I can see someone I think I used to know, I think I used to work with him, and he spotted Jay from Emmerdale, who long-time listeners, long-time viewers will know, used to be in Coronation Street as Dev's cousin Vikram, and he owned streetcars with Steve. He was the original Tim. So yeah, so just a nice little nod. And of course, everyone says, yeah, but John Sugden was in Corrie. Yeah, he was. But the only person from Coronation Street that came across John Sugden and knew of him and knew of what was going on, although I thought it would be in the papers, was Kit. And Kit wasn't there in Corrie at the time. If he'd come across David Platt, that would have been different. Yeah, would have been a very different story. So yeah, I thought they did well with the crossovers. I will do more of an episode, or maybe even more of a TikTok video on actors that have been in both. It's very interesting. Nobody talks about how Kane Dingle was in Corrie, but he was for a couple of episodes. And I thought it might get mentioned in the behind the scenes when they went to Roy's Rolls, but that's a story for another time. Yeah, so I think that's wrapped up CORRIEDALE and what happened. If I have missed anyone out, I do apologise. I'm trying to think of all the cars. And then we had Tim from Corrie driving back Chaz and... that's it. He was driving back Chaz and Liam from the Chariot Square Hotel. But then we said at the end, Weatherfield, you won't have heard of it. But I thought, you've picked them up from Weatherfield, surely. Because that's where they were going for their murder mystery. So, a nice line, but didn't make sense to me. If you feel you know better, then please get in touch. But yeah, nice line, but yeah. But it was such a nice ending as well, just to that episode. And then, of course, the aftermath. So I feel like, I'm sorry if this episode is very much around the houses. I will make better notes in future, but it's just me. I'm just going through how I see it in my head. So, yep. So we've lost Billy. And am I interested in I just feel like the Carl storyline is going to go to a whodunit. I don't think this man is going to make it out of Weatherfield alive. And last night, on Friday night, there were a lot of people gunning for him. Ryan has already told Leanne that he thinks that Carl is stealing. We know he is. He went to Kevin about it, but I don't think Kevin grasped the full essence of the situation. I think Ronnie finding out that Carl was sleeping with James, cheating on Abby with James, puts him as a suspect. I mean, Carl's not even dead yet, and I'm choosing suspects. But we have Ryan, I think possibly Ronnie, Abby, Kevin, even Debbie to a point. I think this man is not making her life very much easier. And I think maybe that's why we saw more of Debbie having those women around. I mean, that even could be a sick situation. We've seen so much of Debbie and Sally and Bernie and Christina and Glenda, which has been a lovely thing. They're very much the light and shade of Corrie at the moment. But I just think that could it lead to a sick situation? Maybe we have 6 men, 6 women, all gunning for Carl. He's not making friends. He's making a lot of enemies. And yeah, I don't know whether he's going to get out of those cobbles alive. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Been interesting with Tracy this week. And we just keep going over the same things again. I don't think she'll ever get back with Steve. They need to... Tracy has so much to give and is such an interesting character. And seeing her with Abby this week and last week has been absolutely brilliant. Those two they are the Pat and Peggy of Coronation Street. They are the best of friends, the worst of enemies. Like, they are just brilliant together. And it's a shame because Sally used to have that with Abby. She still does to a degree, but I feel with the kids and the foster kids, maybe Abby's come away from her a bit more, but it would always be still there. Let's never forget that they met in a jail cell. So yeah, and she could have quite easily met Tracy in a jail cell the way Tracy acts sometimes. So yeah, that's been nice to see. Trying to go up and down the street as to where we're at. Welcome to the World, Baby Harper. We've done Lisa and Carla. Again, didn't see much of Sally and Tim. So yeah, just a wrap up for Coronation Street and for Emmerdale. I loved CORRIEDALE. It was so well done. I feel like I've missed. There's probably a lot that I've missed, but this is a first episode. Please get in touch with your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you. I know this is just one person speaking, and yeah, let me just find the... Can't believe I forgot this already. I'm going to try and not edit this episode down so that it feels more conversational. But we will see what happens. Yeah, if you want to get in touch with us, you can email me at outinthewash.pod@gmail.com. You know, no fancy setups here. Just, I don't even want to film myself. I know everybody's filming podcasts these days. I'm taking it from the queen of podcasts herself, Catherine Ryan, her telling everyone everything. I'm just gonna record for now. You know, it's on a budget. if you have anything, like I say, we're on TikTok, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. So if you have anything to say, please get in touch. If you've got any questions, if you want to see a particular episode, I don't mind recording a one-off. Like I say, I think I could spend a lot of time talking about the likes of Kim Tate, and I get very het up on different characters. So I've probably skipped over a lot of what's happened this week. I do apologise. We'll maybe do more next week, but it could end up being 3 hours long. I'm trying to keep it as short as possible. So yeah, thank you for listening, and we'll see you again soon.